Hello, everybody. This is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government, coming to you live from my office here in Fairfax, Virginia. And, I just wanted to drop in and give you about 5 things that are going on pretty quick. This will be a quick recap because a lot of things are happening. Congress may be out of session and things like that, but balls are moving really fast around here, and I want to make sure you know what was going on. I'm going to cover five different topics, and maybe I'll throw in a 6th. But first one I want to talk about, because we didn't talk about it yesterday, is immigration. You may have seen the news, you may not have, but in August, 208,000 people came across our southern border, according to the Border Patrol. 208,000 people. Now, in July, it was 210,000 people, which set a 41-year record. So that number was down 2,000, but rest assured, that's 317% increase over what it was a year ago, August a year ago. What's really concerning and disturbing is that July, August are typically very, very low illegal immigration times, because the fact is people have to go across a long desert, and that desert is hot, as you might imagine, in July and August. And people die in that desert during July and August. It makes the trip much more dangerous, and particularly for those who are young or infirmed. So what you're looking at is a lot of people are rushing to get across our border right now. And you might ask, well, why are these people doing this treacherous journey at this moment? Why now? Well, the answer can be found in the $3.5 trillion funding spendorama that Joe Biden has proposed and that Bernie Sanders has crafted, because they've snuck immigration amnesty into that proposal. Now, I don't know if it's going to be allowed to stay, but the fact of the matter is the left is trying to create a really blanket amnesty along with chain migration and all of the extended chain migration and all the problems that occurs. And so guess what? When the word gets out that this may be the golden ticket, you better get your toe across the Rio Grande before that ticket runs out. Guess what? People take desperate chances going across 110-degree desert for long lengths of time with minimal water. They put their lives at risk. They put the children's lives at risk. They pay coyotes, human traffickers, money to get them across the border and to try to get them to safety. Guess what? The entirety of this flow of illegal immigration lays directly at the doorstep of President Joe Biden and his Department of Homeland Security, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, who are all pushing for amnesty in September. Let's be honest. If somebody's told you have to get to America by a certain date or else you may miss the opportunity of a lifetime, they're going to come. The good news? Well, the good news out of this is, as we are told continually that our nation is not what it used to be, that we can't have hope, that we have to change everything. We need fundamental transformation by Biden, Pelosi, AOC, and others. As we get told that time and time and time again, 418,000 illegal aliens came across our southern border in the last 2 months, risking their lives to do so, because everywhere else in the world, people know there's no better place to be than the United States of America. Does that mean we should loosen our immigration laws? No, it doesn't. What it means is the rest of the world knows what Americans have been told to forget, and that is, this is the greatest country on earth, and we are the luckiest people in the world to have been born here or to have gotten here, and that is the truth. Let me talk about something else here just for a second. You might have seen this. There's some pictures of it on the internet, but it's almost theater of the absurd. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, who grew up in one of the wealthiest counties in America, Westchester County, New York, who then, actually it's a county that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton live in. But she then moved to the Bronx, the Queens and the Bronx, to do her high school, part of her high school, and then went to Boston University and studied economics, which is hard to imagine. But so she's far radical, democratic socialist, beyond leftist. She's a socialist. She makes no bones about it. Well, AOC shows up in the most amazing places. She, according to reports, was wearing a $30,000 gown to the Met, a gala at the Met in New York City, that was $30,000 a plate ticket. Now, congressional rules, ethics rules, say Congress people can't go out with, spend like $20 on lunch with somebody in terms of going to something like this. Her campaign may have paid for it. I'm sure campaign donors don't mind paying for $30,000 deep meals, but it's going to be up for the ethics committee to decide. But imagine the irony of a person coming to a $30,000 dinner, wearing a $30,000 dress that says tax the rich. I don't know who she thinks she's talking to, but anybody who can afford to go to that, which apparently she can, qualifies as the rich. Now, remember, this is the same member of Congress who a year ago was filming herself in her, look at me, I'm just regular old Alexandria, Sandy from the Bronx, and was in her apartment in DC filming herself, befuddled by this new technology called a garbage disposal, which apparently she had never experienced before. So the same woman who got stunned and scared by a garbage disposal is a woman who's now wandering around in a wealthy enclave of people at a $30,000 plate dinner, wearing a tax the rich dress. Now, I know she got a lot of attention for it, and the media attention she got, including this, is worth a lot of money. But at what point do people start laughing at somebody who's got such hubris that she would do this? At what point do people start asking, where's she getting her money? Who's funding her? Who's giving her campaign $60,000, $70,000 so she can go off and blow it at a essentially expensive dinner? And oh, by the way, not to sound too much like a food critic, but reports from the dinner and pictures that, everybody takes Instagram or little Facebook pictures of their food and posts it on Facebook and elsewhere. Well, pictures from the gala indicate that the food was, shall we say, suitable for rabbits and not very plentiful. So it was not only, so I guess when they said $30,000 a plate, they were really emphasizing the plate, not the food. And some of the celebrities who were there were somewhat disgruntled that they didn't even get a piece of rubber chicken out of the deal. They got nothing but the vegan treatment. Cost, who wants to pay $30,000 for a side salad? So anyway, that's the AOC report. Hopefully the ethics committee, the House Ethics Committee, will look into it and see if somebody paid for her to go. And if it was campaign contributors, those campaign contributors should ask for their money back. And as far as taxing the rich, let's be clear, that's exactly what she wants to do, which leads us to the $3.5 trillion spending extravaganza and the $3.5 trillion in taxes that the Democrats are proposing to offset the cost, as they have to under the budget reconciliation laws that they're trying to pass this law through. I just want to focus on a couple of the taxes that are there, because this bill is an attack on property. It's an attack on your basic ability to own stuff. It's an attack on your ability to pass it along to your children. One of the things that the Democrats are doing is they're trying to raise $800 billion over 10 years, by increasing the property tax or the death tax, by making more people eligible to have to pay it and raising the amount that you have to pay. What's more, they want to raise the actual capital gains tax in such a way that if a farmer were to die and their farm was, they had built a businessman, let's use a small businessman, small business person dies. They started this business from scratch. They grew the business and it became worth, let's say, $20 million. And they tried to pass that business on to their heirs, and they pass away. The first tax that business would take would be on a capital gains tax, because while it's exempt now from a capital gains tax, because the death tax is the only tax it's subjected to, the Democrats want to put a capital gains tax in too. So since we don't really know the numbers they're talking about, let's say it's a 30% capital gains tax, just to make the math easy. At that point, $6 million worth of the company has to be paid in capital gains tax. That's it, because started from zero, had $20 million in net worth, 30%, $6 million. On top of that, the remaining $14 million would then be taxed on the death tax. And so by the time you got done with this, it would kind of be like buying a lottery ticket, $1 million lottery ticket, where you discover at the end of the day that after they take out the withholding and after you pay your taxes, that cash out on the lottery ticket, the $1 million lottery ticket, ends up being about $550,000. And so you say, where'd the $1 million go? Well, the same government that sold you the lottery ticket took all the money out of the lottery ticket. Well, this is the case in the capital gains on death tax. They want effectively, what happens to that $20 million business is you end up paying about $8 to $10 million worth of taxes. And at the end of the day, you have to sell the business. You have to sell the farm because you can't afford to pay the taxes. You can't afford to die. That's how come this is a confiscation of property, attack on property. Because we all know what happens with property values. We all know what happens in those areas and how they go up and up and up. And so consequently, if you own something that's a property or a business, not cash intensive, but a thing intensive, that's something that has a lot of inventory, various storefronts, it makes a profit, but it has a value. But that value is not something that's easily convertible to a large amount of cash. It's not liquid. You're going to have to sell it. Your family's going to have to sell it. And you know who's going to buy it? It isn't going to be somebody like you. It's going to be either a big corporation or a foreign entity. In Montana and Flathead, Montana, it's Flathead Valley. Columbia Falls Aluminum Company existed a long time ago, and the owner finally decided to get out of the business, and a lot of challenges and labor problems and the like. And so he gets out of the business, and he sells it to the Chinese. Well, the Chinese didn't run that factory in Kalispell, Montana. They ran that factory in China. They came in and they stripped every single thing out of that factory, including the walls. The only thing left was the concrete floor, and they shipped it to China. And all those people who were working in that aluminum processing plant didn't have a job anymore. So when you sit there and you think about what happens to a business when they have to pay that much in taxes, what happens is that business goes away. That business gets consumed by a big corporation that doesn't care about your local community. That farm ends up being in the hands of a corporate farm conglomerate. That factory ends up in China, employing Chinese workers and not Americans. That's the death tax, and the death tax, as the Democrats are going to do it, are looking to do it, trying to do it, is actually death to small business in America. So that's just one aspect of this I want to bring to your attention. We're going to talk a little bit about all the various things going on with 3.5 trillion over time. I wanted you to know about that. And oh, by the way, one thing that you might want to do. And you might want to go to getliberty.org and check out the button that says stop the $3.5 trillion spend-a-rama. Click on that, send a note to your congressman, send a note to your senators. You might think that this doesn't matter, that this cake is baked. It's not. Here's what we know. In the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi had to engage in a legislative trick to pass the $3.5 trillion shell of a bill that the Senate's filling in the blanks on. She didn't have the votes. Nobody on her conference wanted to vote for, at least she didn't have 218 votes to get it passed. That's just the truth. She had to do a legislative trick to get the bill through Congress, through the House. So there's no guarantee she'll have the votes if it comes back from the Senate. So it's worth contacting your members of the House of Representatives. We need the Republicans to be loud. We need the Democrats to be scared. Second, the Senate. We already are seeing the Democrats in the Senate carving the number down, saying, well, we won't do 3.5, maybe 1.5 or $2 trillion. So they're already carving the number down. Well, what that means is that they carve the number down, they don't need as much tax increases to pay for it. So if they want to get rid of the death tax, if you want to kill the death tax increase, one thing in the capital gains tax that goes along with it, if you want to kill that, one of the ways to do it is if they cut how much they spend by $2 trillion, they don't need the $800 billion that they're going to collect from the death tax. So consequently, they can then kill the death tax too. If they vote down the whole thing, we don't have to pay for any of it, which is the ultimate blessing, because this bill is a takeover of the free enterprise system, is designed to destroy the free enterprise system. So it's time to stand up, click that button, let people know at getliberty.org that you oppose the $3.5 trillion Biden spend-a-rama. Going to go with a couple other things real quick. Number one, I've been asked to talk a little bit about the impact the vaccination mandate is going to have on the labor market. It's going to completely disrupt it. It's going to make it so people aren't sure if they're going to have a job. They're going to be forced to start looking for jobs. People who are in companies that are 100 or more are suddenly going to be looking for a job in companies that are less than 100 who are not vaccinated. We're going to see an entire shift in the workforce. We're likely to see a significant rise in unemployment from companies that are like airlines and other places that are demanding that you have a vaccination. And quite honestly, there aren't very many airlines that have under 100 employees. So it's going to cause some people to have to do shifting their careers. We're already seeing lawsuits from various states and local municipalities, lawsuits from various unions, public employee unions, among others. We've seen one state, New York, throw out a vaccine mandate that the state imposed. We're going to see lawsuit after lawsuit. We've got a lawsuit out of Arizona that is based on equal protection. The idea is very simple, that it doesn't require that illegal aliens who come across the border get vaccinated. 30% refuse a vaccination, according to the Border Patrol. But it does require that American citizens get the vaccination. I don't know that the suit holds up for a variety of reasons, but the fact of the matter is it's filed. There's going to be a lot of legal filings on this. If you're being affected by it, if you're worried or your relatives are worried about whether they're going to lose their job, the key is if you're in a place where you have contact, if you're like a police officer, contact your PBA, your FOP, and see if they're filing suit. They should be. If you are a private sector employee and not unionized, then look for class actions. There will be class action suits announced, or seek out an attorney and ask them to start a class action. Because when this goes down in the courts, you need to be made whole, and you have a right to demand that. And as much as I hate to say it, the federal government, while they're supposed to be exempt from this kind of liability, while we as the American taxpayer are supposed to be exempt from the liability, I believe that the fact that they know darn well that this is unconstitutional and this is a short-term attempt to intimidate people into getting vaccinated, that some people are going to start looking at the judiciary to try to find a deep pocket who can be held accountable. And folks, the only way you're going to get this overturned is by going to court and driving to the Supreme Court with 1,000 different types of decisions where the Supreme Court has to take it and hopefully then rule that it is in fact unconstitutional. So don't be afraid to get engaged on the legal end. And we will keep our eye out for any class action suits that are looking for people to join. So, and we'll keep you informed on that, both on getliberty.org and through this podcast. So, but in terms of the labor market, we're going to see disruption. We're going to see a lot of disruption. And it's going to be, and we already have labor shortages in a lot of our industries. This is going to exacerbate those labor shortages. We are already seeing hospitals saying that they're no longer provide birthing facilities for children, neonatal, or any kind of birthing medical care, because they have to shift their doctors and nurses away from there because they're getting rid of doctors and nurses who refuse to be vaccinated. And we're a long way from a year ago when we were holding up the doctors and nurses. We have to listen to them. We have to hold them in esteem. They are the heroes. Today, the same Democrats that said they were heroes a year ago and brave to stand up against the disease are now saying they can't be trusted. We can't actually let them do what they want to do. We have to compel them to take a vaccination, which, as doctors and nurses, they know darn well what the risk is. And in their circumstances, they've chosen not to take it. So that's the irony here. But we're going to see a lot of those kind of firings. It's going to disrupt our hospital system. It's going to disrupt our entire medical system. It's going to disrupt the supply chain flows because people who drive trucks suddenly won't be able to drive trucks. We're going to have so many different unintended consequences, or unanticipated consequences. Let me change that. Unanticipated consequences that I can't tell you what the labor market's going to be like in 2 months. But I can tell you it's going to be a lot different, and it's going to be a little scary. So just, buckle in. But if you're in a situation where you think you may be in jeopardy of losing your job, it might be wise to start reaching out to some smaller companies to determine if they have jobs available that fit your bill, because it's a whole lot easier to change a job when you got one. And if your employer is giving any sign that they're going to follow this mandate, then you're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to have to say, I want to continue working, or I want to stay unvaccinated. The single way to, you can submit to test every week. That's one way to do it. Or you can go and you can find a job from an employer employs under 100 people. And those employers are desperate for employees right now. So just a thought, if you're at all concerned about that, begin to check your options so you aren't caught off guard, so you aren't caught unaware, so you aren't caught unprotected. And in the meantime, be looking for a class action suit or start a class action suit. Go to an attorney and get a class action suit going to try to stop this insanity that would throw 30 million people out of work if it's fully implemented. And last, and this is a little lighthearted thing, but you really need to check out the Daily Torch tomorrow, dailytorch.com. Catherine Mortensen's writing an article that is about a bill that's been introduced that, well, let's just say it would treat Nancy Pelosi the way police officers are treated, in that she would be forced to wear a body cam so everybody could see what she was up to at all times. It's a little bit lighthearted. It's a little bit of a spoof, but let's be honest, it's a pretty funny thought. And so at a time when we've got a lot of back and forth and a lot of things to worry about, we try to put a cartoon in every couple of days. We try to put some lighthearted stuff in too, because, life's too short not to laugh. Life's too short not to smile. So while a lot of things are serious and troublesome and really, really worrisome about what's going on in our country, remember two things. Remember that there are hundreds of thousands of people who are risking their lives to get here, whether or not it's legal or not. So something must be going right here. And two, God's in control. We're not. And with God's in control, when God's in control, we know one thing, because as Billy Graham said, he read the end of the Bible and he knows God wins. So with that, have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit tomorrow, just so you know. With all the concern about people losing their jobs over COVID, the one person who's taken care of, and I was worried about him, is LeBron James, because the NBA players will not be required to be vaccinated because of a deal their union did with the NBA. So rest assured, do not fear. The NBA players making $100 million a year in many cases, $200 million a year, some, they will not be risking losing their jobs over vaccination, even though they were the ones, many of them were the ones who defended China and said it was unfair to call it a China virus, defended China when they were attacking Hong Kong, and defended China over the use of slave labor to produce the shoes that those NBA stars put their names on to sell to children for hundreds of dollars a pair. So fear not, LeBron James is safe from losing his job based on vaccination. With that, I just wanted to leave you with that so you would feel comfortable and know, and just stop worrying about what's going to happen to LeBron, because after all, what else matters? With that, have a great evening. We'll talk to you next time.